Morning America. Echoes of the January 6th insurrection, this time in Brazil. Overnight, chaos after thousands stormed government buildings in Brazil, including Congress and presidential offices, over claims of a stolen election. Hundreds arrested. The reaction this morning.
Back in session, the House set to get to work this morning after Kevin McCarthy was finally elected Speaker. The once-in-a-century fight getting physical, and why concessions McCarthy made could mean more chaos ahead.
President Biden on the scene of the immigration crisis for the first time since taking office. The high-stakes summit getting underway.
Restaurant shooting, an armed customer accused of shooting a masked suspect during an alleged robbery in Texas. Can the customer be charged? And was the suspect's weapon real?
Prince Harry, in his own words,
the truth needs to be there, and it needs to come from me.
On his complicated relationship with his family.
Do you think in the 21st century there's a place for the British monarchy?
His decision to step back from royal life, how his grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth, took that decision.
Did she ever express that she was upset at you?
How he says the British press used Meghan's race against her. What he says his relationship with his brother, Prince William, is really like. Plus, dealing with the grief of losing his mother.
There was nothing there. I was numb.
What saved his life and what it would take to reconcile with his family now.
Overnight, major changes in the new guidelines on childhood obesity. The proactive approach, a significant shift in treatment, what parents need to know.
Takeoff, why now may be the best time to book if your vacation plans are up in the air. The round-trip flights and cruises to dream spots you'll flip out over.
And back in action, honoring one of their own.
This is storybook, an opening kickoff return for Damar Hamlin, and this place is absolutely going wild.
The Buffalo Bills scoring on the opening kickoff with Damar Hamlin watching from his hospital bed. This morning, how players and fans across the league paid tribute.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. It was a lot of fun. It was great to watch Damar Hamlin watching the game from his hospital bed, and also it was like a Hollywood script.
It was.
The way the Bills performed
the opening
yesterday.
kickoff like that.
Amazing.
It was something to watch.
Beautiful.
Also ahead, we are following the latest on some breaking news overnight. Thousands of nurses are now on strike at some New York City hospitals. This amid COVID hospitalizations rising here in the Northeast. We'll have more on that in just a few moments.
And we begin with the chaos in Brazil, a massive riot in the capital over false claims of fraud in a presidential election. Thousands of people stormed the Congress and the offices of the president. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz starts us off. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. The images coming out of Brazil this morning are shockingly similar to the siege on our own Capitol building, with rioters claiming the Brazilian election was stolen, but the attacks in Brazil were even more widespread.
Overnight, Brazilian authorities retaking control after thousands of rioters stormed several government buildings in Brazil's capital city. Supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who lost his bid for re-election in October, breaching offices housing the National Congress, the Supreme Court, and even presidential offices. The scene looking eerily reminiscent of the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol building after former President Trump's election defeat. Police attempted to repel the rioters, seen here confronting a group on the roof of the National Congress building with weapons drawn. On the ground, officers fired tear gas into the crowd, trying to push them back. The government was not in session, but the demonstrators refusing to accept the election victory of President Lula da Silva, sworn in just days ago. Hours after the protests began, former President Bolsonaro criticizing the protests and saying destruction and invasion of public buildings are not a part of democracy. But Bolsonaro, called the Trump of South America, has repeatedly claimed voter fraud and encouraged a military coup after his loss. President Lula surveying the damages in his presidential offices after police cleared the protesters and secured the buildings. At least 400 people have been arrested, according to the Brazilian government.
There remains a heavy police presence in Brazil's capital this morning. President Lula vowing that all the terrorists who did this will be found and punished, and President Biden calling the attacks outrageous. Robin?
Very disturbing scene there in Brazil. All right, Martha, thank you.